Hello and welcome to this new episode of ToolSense Workshop Talks. Today I have Stephen with me, CEO of Compleat Restoration. Stephen, could you tell us a couple words about yourself and a little bit about Compleat Restoration?
Sure. Yeah. So my name is Stephen Zuka, like you said, CEO of Compleat Restorations. We are based in just outside of Philadelphia, kind of servicing South Central Pennsylvania. We help families and businesses restore themselves from disaster. So whether it's a water loss, fire loss, we do mold, asbestos, we're just kind of trying to help people out however we can.
Awesome. And Stephen, how did you hear first about ToolSense?
Actually, I think you guys solicited me on LinkedIn. So I got a message, and it was something that I had identified as an issue within our organization was equipment tracking. And I knew that the process was going to be really cumbersome for us to identify a solution and implement. So it was something we had kind of kicked into future quarters. But when you guys had reached out, it had piqued my interest enough to, go on a Zoom call, kind of see what it was all about. And I realized maybe this wasn't as cumbersome as I had initially thought. And then one thing led to another. Here we are, just about fully implemented with the ToolSense system.
Awesome. And Stephen, could you elaborate a bit, please, about how did you work before, right? You said it was a bit cumbersome. Can you maybe talk a bit about the way you worked before? Did you have a system in place? Was it mainly Excel? And what were the challenges?
So we've tried a number of different systems. We've been in business since 1978. So we've been around for a while, and we've tried a lot of different things. Lock and key. We literally had some of the equipment behind a cage where you had to sign it in and out. And then that's only as accurate as the person who's actually signing it. We've tried a physical tag system where there was two barcodes, you would rip it, break it, one would stay with the equipment, one would then go back. We've tried different geotag systems that were Bluetooth, and they were draining the batteries on our cell phones, and it wasn't working in basements and stuff like that. So we had kind of, I don't want to say given up on it, but just had incorporated the loss of equipment into the cost of doing business, which is really unfortunate to say. So some background is like a dehumidifier. Most of our jobs have a dehumidifier on them. A dehumidifier is about $3,500. We have air scrubbers. They can be about $2,500. We have fans. They can be anywhere from $200 to $500. So, but we have thousands of pieces of equipment. So it was more cost effective for us to just write off the losses than it was to implement some kind of a system with a monthly subscription for each piece of equipment across all three of our locations. So we had just kind of resigned to the fact that we were going to lose, we were guessing, but about 5 to 10 pieces of equipment a year, which can be anywhere from, $10,000 to $20,000.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's very interesting. And what was it that was interesting to you about ToolSense? What made it stand out? Why did you decide to go with ToolSense?
I think it was the marriage between the vehicles and the assets. We had a vehicle tracking system in place that allows us to do route tracking, fuel consumption, live look. A lot of our work is contingent upon a quick response time. So it's very advantageous for us to pull the map up, see who's where, see who can get there the quickest to minimize secondary damage. And I think the marriage between those two, like the assets piggybacking off of the vehicles as the trackers, just kind of made sense, because the only way for us to get our assets to the location is by a vehicle. So it picks it up, it allows us to track it, allows us to make sure that we know, and it helps with justification on our bills. We can prove, scientifically, hey, these assets were on location for X number of days, and that helps justify our bills to the insurance company. And that was the biggest selling point. The second part was the investment was really in the tags. From there isn't like a monthly fee. And this allowed us to make that calculation internally to say, hey, this is worth it to implement and then maintain, because the maintenance cost is next to nothing.
Absolutely. That's great. And can you maybe, you already touched a little bit upon it, but can you maybe talk about how the processes now, daily operations, the daily workflows, looking for equipment, who has what, how that changed versus before?
Yeah. So now we're able to, we customize some of the ways that we run our reports with. We can see if a piece of equipment hasn't moved in a week. That's going to be a red flag for me. If it's not in and out of the warehouse regularly, at a job site, coming back to the warehouse, moving around, I know that something is astray. So we can close out a week. We can run some reports to say, hey, when was the last time this piece of equipment moved? I can see run rates on equipment. I can say, hey, this office is using more fans. Perhaps we need to grow our inventory out of that location because we're getting close to you. I never want to run out, right? Like I always have to have some in reserve. So that helps us to identify when we need to grow the assets. It's been helpful tracking the fleet and again, seeing where our inefficiencies are. Hey, are some of our people spending more time on the road than they need to be? Perhaps we could change the routes a little bit to maximize efficiencies.
Awesome. And Steve, now looking a bit into the future, so what are your future goals with ToolSense? What is maybe your vision that you have for the partnership, and are there any ideas, what could be implemented in the future that could be interesting?
A good question. I think our goals are, we had initially started kind of testing the waters. We wanted to see, hey, is this something that works? We had seen the demonstrations, but we needed a proof of concept. So we started small. We're now scaling through the rest of the assets. I think that we could even look at some of our trailers. We have trailers that act kind of as central hubs and seeing about growing that out to include those things. I want to look at how to streamline the reporting so that we can present it to insurance companies as justification. We do a lot of time and material kind of work. So I think if we could work on some kind of a manifest that's a little bit easier to read, and I could cut down administratively on generating that internally, I could just say, hey, here you go, and kind of hand it over. But otherwise, as we continue to expand our footprint and open new brick and mortar locations, it's great to have an idea of just keeping track of our stuff as we get a little bit more spread out.
Absolutely. Awesome. And Stephen, final question. How do you assess the current state of the restoration industry? And also how do you see it evolving in the next 5 to 10 years? How do you see also new technologies, AI, robotics? Do you see an impact there? It would be interesting to get your perspective on that.
Seems like not specific to our industry, but everything is trending toward technological improvements. So in the last couple of years, we're seeing a heavy focus on LiDAR, digital sketching. A lot of estimating is moving to be remote. You're seeing a strong consolidation from private equity into the restoration industry because we're not tied to market performance. So disasters are going to happen whether the economy is up or whether the economy is down. So a lot of people are trying to hedge their bets by investing into restoration companies, and locally owned businesses like myself are a thing of the past. Far and away, everything is consolidating into a couple major companies as they snatch them up, like hungry beasts. So I think that trying to preserve our culture and being that locally owned is something that we're very proud of. But I think that it's implementing new technologies as they become available. We're a lot more dynamic than the juggernauts because I don't have 500 employees that I have to change the policy on. I've got 50. So we really try and lean into this new stuff as it becomes available. There's marriages between softwares that allow them to interface, which is fantastic, where my accounting software can talk to my CRM. I can walk through and sketch a space by just using the camera on my iPhone, and it cuts down on the actual time to capture. So it's really neat. I don't think in our industry we will lose jobs to automation, but I think it'll make our employees more efficient by leaning into these new technologies as people really refine them.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Stephen, thanks so much for your time today. That was really interesting, great insights, and hopefully see you soon.
Yeah. Thanks so much.